Hello there, it's Josh here from Racing to Profit. I hope you've had a great week. I hope you have a great weekend to come. In this video, I'm going to whiz through, as best I can, the two big handicaps from Air and try and say something enlightening and useful for you that will help you solve the hardest puzzles of all. A couple of bits of housekeeping first. If you're watching this on YouTube and I'm not speaking quickly enough for you, you're getting bored, click the cog in the bottom right hand corner, the settings cog, and you can speed me up. Use the playback speed up me to like 1.5 or something. I think I still sound relatively normal, and obviously the video will play a lot quicker and you will whiz through. I'm aware I can speak slowly. Sometimes that's normally because I'm trying to think as I speak while staring at these race cards. What else do I want to say? Do click subscribe. Also subscribe to the channel, and then you'll get notified when these videos drop in YouTube so that you never miss them, because why would you want to do that? The final thing I was going to say as an aside, those of you who like podcasts, I was recommended by a good friend to start listening to Jake Humphrey's High Performance podcast, which I'd never really listened to before. It is very, very good. I've got lots of them to get through. He and an academic friend, Damien, someone whose name I forget, interview high-performing sports stars, I should say, people from the business world, and various others. Very interesting, maybe worth checking out. But I mention it if only because, as all podcasts are, they're sponsored by something, and Jake Humphreys occasionally dips in and mentions who his sponsors are, and that is what I'm going to do with Gigi's Gold. Now, they're not sponsoring these videos, but Matt doesn't mind me using them to record and using his excellent tools to record. So it is only fair I mention Gigi's Gold every now and then. If you like solving the puzzle, if you rush for time or don't feel like, or feel like, I should say, you want to upskill or try and find a way to make puzzle solving a bit easier with all the information at your fingertips, and you like finding your own winners and you get a buzz from doing just that, it's worth a try. I mean, it's so much better than Racing Post, which is stuck in the dark ages. At the Races is okay, but not too much better. I am biased, but without Gigi's Gold and Horse Race Base for some other bits and pieces, I would be a bit lost. So with that said, you can click the link below this video and take a 30-day trial for £1. You don't have to commit for any longer term. Try it, give it a road test. 30 days to see if it transforms your experience of horse racing and your profitability. Now, with that said, let's jump and crack on with Air within the excellent Gigi's Gold. What am I going to say first? These races are bloody difficult. Some people love them, as in seriously attack them, and they're a key part of their betting strategy. That isn't for me. Many of you know I've, well, only in May actually, it's taken me a while, I've realised to really focus on tipping wise in 3 mile plus handicap chases. But I do like, well, and some hurdle races and other jumps races over 3 miles and further. But we are, of course, in the flat season, although thank the Lord, some more jumps meetings are on the horizon next week. But they are quite good fun. If you get a buzz from solving the puzzle, which I do, that's kind of my main buzz with looking at a horse race, and seeing the positive reaction if any of you people have followed me in and backed the winner and won some money. That's always a buzz. Also, is to try and solve these puzzles, and these sprint handicaps are the hardest races on the calendar, no doubt about that. I did 2 or 3 years ago attempt to take a serious approach during the summer to try and solve these handicaps. I focused on sprint handicaps kind of every day, class 4 and upwards, and to be honest, I think I nearly had a racing brain mental breakdown. So I don't do that anymore, but I do dip in every now and then. If you read today's email, or if you remember watching this, read the blog, I did touch on the Bronze Cup, flagged a couple of horses at 16 to 1 plus, with Be Proud coming a decent second. I only had £2.50 English pounds on the nose on each for a bit of fun. But yeah, they ran well, and it is exciting when you can land on a decent price horse in races like this, or horses in races like this. But me personally, they're not ones to go mad on financially. They're a bit of fun with beer money, and we shall see how they go. If it doesn't work out and they tail off out the back of the TV, no bother. And if they win, it's a few rounds up the pub. I will try and say something which is useful and helps you solve the puzzle yourself. What should we start with? Let me order it in race card order, which would be useful. I did have it on the draw. Let's just focus for a start on these trainers in form, or I should say really in form. You're looking at these little green indicators, and you can look at the jockeys as well if you want. As always, you can pause these videos at any point you wish. Kevin Ryan's are going well. You can see there, 8 from 39, 15 places the last 14 days. All of this information just at the click of a button down there. Clive Cox going well. Very well. 7 from 27, 14 places the last 14 days. 2 from 10 with his runners at Ayr. Who else? Ryan's there. Carl Burke generally does well at Ayr. Stuart Williams are going okay. Kevin Ryan again. Paul Midgey does okay at the course, indicated by that C5. That's a 5-year record. So that's not to say the other trainers aren't in form, of course, and some of the horses representing those trainers won fairly recently or ran well fairly recently. But those are the sort of things you may wish to note down, and some of their runners may be worth a look in the coming days. Let me get rid of my face so you can see a fuller screen, and no one really wants to stare at that for too much longer, I'm sure. Gigi's speed ratings, they use a Dr. Pete the May. Now these, he has a fancy way and way above my levels of intellect of pulling together these speed ratings. They do generally do okay on sprint distances, actually. So again, you might want to note down some of these, using them as a way in, take a closer look. That's not to say something with one of these lowly ratings down here can't run well. Yeah, there might be some positives there. Let's jump over to Instant Expert, should we? Now, this is a kind of profile dashboard where you can change all the different race conditions and everything else. At the top, as I talk here, at about 20 to 6 on Friday evening. They've had some rain at Ayr in the last 2 hours. I'm not sure how much is going to set in. It was riding pretty quick before that, so maybe the ground will change. It might not be quick. Let's change the, you can change the going, which is always useful if rain is falling. There might still be some good to firm come this, because it's meant to be clear and dry tomorrow. But what we've got here, we've got the winning record against the horse, against the going, the class, the course, the distance, the field size. This is all races for now. Green is good, amber's good, red not so good. Of course, this is horses that are proven against the race conditions. There could be horses in this who are improving. There could be horses in this who will improve for today's conditions, for a cavalry charge, for a big field, for a strong pace that they can settle off, running through horses which they may not have faced before if they've been pottering around in small fields and slowly run races and so on, not settling, etc. That's why some horses in races like this can transform and leave old form behind, which makes them, again, part of the puzzle, but makes these particular puzzles even more challenging. And some horses only do well in big fields. So if you're looking for green and amber and field size, we have Magical Spirit, who won this race last year, I believe, or one of them. I think it was this one. Good to soft. He won't mind the ground, off 88. What is he here today? 94. I'm not sure £6 would have necessarily stopped him that last day, but who knows? Technically, he is still on a career high mark. Which isn't necessarily ideal. He was beaten fairly well in York, but maybe that ground went a bit too soft, and it shouldn't be soft here today. Good to soft is fine for him. He blasted out and made all there. Has this been the plan since then? You wouldn't be shocked if it was. He posted an RPR 102 which indicates that mark was fairly workable. They've got it down £3 this season. 6 furlong, 6 furlong. 6, maybe he might have needed a run the first few times, who knows. He's coming into this in form, staying on in the final furlong over 5 furlongs at Ascot. He now steps back up to 6, so doing something different as a reason for improvement. And of course, this may have been the plan all season. Before I touch on a couple of others, let's just look at who is well handicapped. That's not to say, so those were the minus. You've got today's figure here. You've got their last winning figure here. Now, obviously, some of these may be improving. That's not to say these marks that are above their last winning mark are insurmountable. They're not necessarily. This isn't an indication of being on a career high as such, but you may wish to note those who are down on their last winning mark or below. Connections will know that. That may have been a plan, especially if they've gone up the ratings and coming down. And those sorts of horses are always worth keeping an eye on because, of course, they're well handicapped and they might pop up somewhere when connections kind of place them well and find the right races. So Air Raid may be one of those. He's had a bit of time off and he's top weight. I'm not necessarily saying that's for him today as such, but he is back down to his last winning mark. Royal Scimitar, or however you pronounce him, I'm not sure if he's won a handicap yet, but I'll focus on him in a minute. Soldier's Minute is back on his last winning mark, which may be interesting. Lord Ratscabion's £3 below. Tinto's £9 below. Does that indicate he's a bit too aggressive? Possibly. Staxton on his last winning mark. And then you've got a few here who are above their last winning marks. But like I said, some of them may be progressive. So don't necessarily dismiss them simply because of that handicapping aspect. Black Rod. Oh, lots of green. There we go. He's an unexposed 3-year-old. I think he's been put in about the 5-1 favourite. No shock there. He hasn't done anything wrong. You would expect a big run. Do you want to be taking 4 and 5-1 in these big races, or do you want to find a bigger price each way? That's depends on your approach to betting and how you do it. There's value to be found near the top of the market in races like this, of course. Golden Apollo is £2 below his last winning mark. That may be interesting either for this race or moving forwards. So yes, just focusing on some of this kind of green and orange that stands out. I touched on Magical Spirit. I can click this little any one of these little items here on these columns with a horse, and I can actually see the race where that indicates and relates to, I should say. Like I said, I've touched on that one. Has this been the plan for Magical Spirit? He's drawn low. Is he going to absolutely blast out and try and make all like he did last time? Possibly. Wouldn't be a shock if he did. Like I said, this may well have been the plan. What I should say is also, I've got that on all form. Let me just put it on handicaps and let me put it on flat turf handicaps, because some of that covers the all-weather as well. And again, you can see Magical Spirit there shows up a bit better. So he may be of interest. Just from that profile perspective, not to go, oh, I'm going to back him straight away, but if you want to take notes on these videos and create a short list by some of the things I say, I would put Magical Spirit on that list based on what we're seeing in front of our eyes there, in which to have a closer look, and the fact, like I said, that he won this last year. This is just winning form, of course. I'll touch on place form in a minute. Soldier's Minute is interesting to a point, I think, because of his handicap and the fact he won one of these races last year, or has run well in them. I'll touch on him in a moment. What else have we got down here? Not loads jumping out. Blackrod obviously does look solid. Not many holes in him, apart from the fact that it is his first run at Air, and this is one of those tracks which course form is important and can do quite well. Yeah, interesting in terms of course form or lack of, and you might think that's a negative. You might be very pro course form, and if that's the case, there might be some of these horses down here you might want to take a look at. Black Friday, Golden Apollo, Midwinter have run well here. You can see those with handicap wins at the track. You can see those here: Magical Spirit, Shallow Hall, Music Society, and so on. Let's look at the placed form. So this is win and place, flat handicaps again. Green and amber's decent when you're combining that with handicap mark. Magical Spirit, interesting. Royal Scimitar for Clive, the informed Clive Cox, is interesting. Again, no race run here. You're kind of building that into the odds. The lack of course form, like I said, some of you may put quite a heavy weight on course form, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Everything has a price, of course. He's got a decent form in big field as well, so he's interesting. He's kind of an unexposed 3-year-old, I think. Magical Spirit I've already mentioned. Soldier's Minute is interesting from that handicap perspective, although he doesn't win very often. Sorry, he hasn't won here. He got the so he was 7th in the Gold Cup, and remember this is the silver version of 96. He's £4 lower there. Kept on, never able to challenge. He was a bit slow away that day. I wonder if the hood just dulled his senses a bit too much. I'm not quite sure. Last year in the Gold Cup, obviously the money was reduced a bit because of COVID, etc. He raced far side, close up, ridden, challenging when groups merged. No extra. Beaten 2 lengths off £6 higher. That's what interests me to a point, in the fact that he's on his last winning mark, and there's a few in this who are above their last winning marks and arguably may not be best handicapped on paper, and we know he likes a big field, and at his best he kind of bounces out and races prominently. Keith Dalglish had a few winners at this air meeting this week as well, so that might be of some interest in terms of for a shortlist and a closer look. Music Society is interesting, but still above last winning mark, I think. He's also got form in these big races. Won the Bronze Cup, I think. So this is a bit of a step up. This is the Silver Cup version, a bit more competitive on paper, arguably. And that was off 81. Still, obviously, £8 above that. Although it does have Ella McCain's 5 to take off, although Paul Mulrennan, Ella McCain's good, but Paul Mulrennan's probably a £5 better jockey at least than her at the moment on that stage in her career. Black Rod, as I've mentioned, ticks lots of boxes there. Woven is interesting. Yeah, Woven is interesting actually, because there's lots of green there in terms of win and place. Big field as well. We can touch on him. Golden Apollo, as I mentioned, looking at those with winning and place form in big fields is never a bad thing either. So hopefully something there. You can see the reason why these races are so hard to solve, and they take time. Even if you're just messing around with small change, you could spend 2-3 hours on each of these races going through every runner, etc. I don't like doing that anymore because it's far too mentally draining and takes away focus from other areas which I'm better at, and other codes. But you can still pick up plenty, which is the joy of these internet experts, and do an okay job in relatively quick time. So hopefully I've said something there that may help you formulate a shortlist, or something that's interesting. You can pause, look at that dashboard, do as you please. The other thing, of course, which is vitally important in races like this, is the pace. Let's sort out the draw. So number 1 is against the far side as we look across the course. Number 25 up against this near side. Now, the Bronze Cup, the action seemed to happen middle to low. There was some pace initially high, so I'm not quite sure if there's a track or ground bias, or whether or not it was just pace. But you can see here, this bunch have a question. Why do they have a question? Because there are not many or any on paper based on their last 4 starts. Out and out blasters, out and out front runners, which are going to drag this slot into the race. That's why I'm slightly apprehensive about Woven, slightly apprehensive about Golden Apollo, because he is usually patiently ridden, needs to come through horses, needs a strong pace to aim at. He is well handicapped. He's got bulletproof form in plenty of races like this over the years. Just whether they're going to go hard enough. Now, these pace maps can make you look silly. 2 or 3 of these might go sod it and blast out, knowing the jockeys, knowing they need to be prominent, they need to be up there. That's not impossible. That could happen. But on what we can see in front of us, that is a question. Obviously, as I scoot up here, you can see there is more pace middle to low. So we've got Midwinster, Black Friday, although Winster's a yet to win over 6 for Midgley and looks more of a 5 furlong horse. So I'm not necessarily sure Gramley will blast him out, but who knows? I could be talking nonsense there. Kevin Ryans gets on with it. Interesting. Soldier's Minute, we know, can race prominently. Interesting. You've got a few here. Clive Cox can track the pace. Blackwell probably be in the right place. He's sandwiched between possible pace. And Magical Spirit, last year's winner, races prominently made all last time. Are a few of these going to cut each other's throats or not? Will Magical Spirit, I think, if memory serves me right, I haven't watched it, did he blast out and head straight to that far rail last year? Not impossible. Will Kevin Stott do the same? He's drawn in 4. So from a pace and race positioning perspective, Magical Spirit is interesting. Soldier's Minute is interesting. These down here will possibly have it run for them and have horses to run through. These ones down here have a question based on what we're looking at. Will enough horses go quick enough to drag them into it? Possibly. Maybe some of these will push it a bit harder than I was expecting. Who knows? But there we go. That's the pace map as you can see in front of you. You can pause, do whatever you want with that. I'm ticking around to 20 minutes. I've probably been speaking for too long on this race because I need to crack on to the Gold Cup. I don't think there's anything else I want to say there, really. Well, Royal Skirmitor, however we say that name, first time blinkers. Now, that means I should think he'll blast out. they can have they can go two ways first time blinkers. They can upset the horse far too much. He will run well till 2 furlongs out and then he'll fall in the hole and go backwards, or it will inspire him. He'll be able to tank along and just keep going. This Newmarket form is decent. Not far off Blackrod, half a length. He's £2 higher today. Blackrod must be a bit higher than he was on that race because he's won a couple since, or won one more since. Although that was an apprentice race, so he escapes without a penalty. So probably not much between them this time again. If the blinkers work, like I said, that Clive Cox form, unexposed 3-year-old, does have 9 stone 10 to lump. So he is interesting, I think, and this is my own short list, having not looked overly long, but as long as I want to, probably. Magical Spirit, Soldier's Minute is interesting. I think he's 16, 18 to 1 and might be an interesting bigger price each way with lots of places to fire at. Woven possibly, but like I said, I've got a niggle about the draw, and the same with Golden Apollo. Blackrod is interesting. He is too short for me in a race like this presently, but he should run his race if he takes to the track, which is a question for a 5-6 to 1 shot in a race like this. Midwinster, interesting, did stay on in that York 5 furlongs. His distance 6 furlong win was over in Ireland. Midgley's yet to run him over 6 that often. In York, you can see there beating the side of furlong, so I'm not 100% sure on stamina with him, but I could be wrong on that front. I may not have even mentioned the winner yet. It's that sort of race these are, but with any luck I have said something there which is interesting and useful for you, and with that said, you can take a closer look at some of those I've mentioned if you wish. You may disagree. Post a comment below in the video on YouTube or on the blog. Say what you fancy. Tell me if I'm talking nonsense. As long as you're polite, you're more than welcome to do so. That is the Silver Cup. Let's move on to the Gold Cup, which I'll try and rattle through in 9 or 10 minutes. Right, what am I going to start with here? Again, let's just look at that dashboard on those green indicators, which are useful. Ed Walkers are going well. I should say 7 from 17, 8 places the last 14 days. That doesn't mean Great Ambassador's going to bolt up. He might do. He's near the top of the market. But Ed Walker's runners, wherever they are, given that form, which is very, very hot, are clearly worth a bit of a look. I'm just going to click his race entries here. Everything in one place on Gigi's Gold. What's he got? He's got one at, this is the 17th. He had a winner today. Did American Star win? Possibly. He's got 18th, that's what I'm looking at. He's got one at Newbury. He's got a couple here. I'll touch on Popmaster, actually, who's interesting as well. Parachute at Newbury, and he's got a few in the coming days. So Ed Walker's yard, 7 from 17, 8 places, 66% rivals beaten. That's a decent win place percentage. Maybe all those winners have done, and I'm after the Lord's Mayor's show highlighting his trainer form, but he will have some more winners in the next week, I should think. Just a case of landing on the right one. So that might be a train to keep an eye on. Oisin McSweeney is riding well, isn't he? £7 claimer. He's clearly talented. Last year, 19 from 101, 38 places. Look at that. I mean, they're solid stats. Last 14 days, 30 days, you can see those stats there. He's a decent £7 claimer who's worth keeping an eye on. Some of his rides may be worth a look. He's clearly riding with confidence, and that can rub off on the horses, of course. Charlie Hills are going okay. You can see his form there. Stuart Williams, I touched on the last race, 5 from 21, 7 places last 14 days. Decent, solid enough. Kevin Ryan, I've touched on before. There's Ed Walker. Les Air, interesting. Just Frank is just interesting. I'll mention or indicate why in a moment. I mean, he's a last time out winner, and he's a 3-year-old, so probably doesn't take a rocket scientist, I suppose, to say he's interesting, fit, in form, progressive. Races handily as well. I'll jump onto the pace map in a moment. Last time out winners, he does well with last time out winners. Not all trainers can back up with last time out winners and place them well again, but Les seems to be one of the better ones. And yeah, you get all these little report angles and all sorts here, but I don't have time to click through the various different things on this race card here. Yeah, Tim Easterby does well with his quick returners in 7 days, especially when David Allen is on. Also, and in a few other conditions, I touched on Paul Midgley in terms of his record here isn't too bad in the last 5 years, 17% strike rate or so. You can change various different settings to flag different things in these race cards. Potmaster, yeah, the trainer stats, hot form, various other different things. There's different stuff you can flick through there. I'll touch on that speed rating, which you can see there. Those horses may be of interest. And some of these down here also. Some of these down here may have questions, but it's not impossible. Ratings should only ever be some sort of guide and arguably a final piece of the jigsaw if you so wish. Pace, let me jump. Pace. Vitally important. I've mentioned that I sound like a broken record. If you are not thinking about pace maps, running styles, positioning, how a race is going to pan out, you're betting on horses with two hands tied behind your back and possibly both feet. Vitally important aspect of race analysis if you like solving the puzzle. You can get access to pace maps, every single pace map on Monday in Gigi's Gold as a free registered user. It's not just about selling stuff here. I try and flag decent free stuff, and you can become a free registered user and get the pace maps every day and access to 5 races with these race cards. So 5 races every day, full access to all these race cards and all the things I'm flicking through. And if you have any ambition of upskilling or making the game more enjoyable by hopefully landing on more winners and more horses that outrun their odds, I would give it a go. And that link is also below this video to register for free and get access to a load of free stuff. Pace maps, you can see why they're important. Because they do help you give a shape of who's going to be near the front, who's going to be near the back, and how is that going to be an advantage or disadvantage to certain runners. How is the race going to pan out, and how will that be an advantage or disadvantage to certain horses? You can see why Just Frank interested me. Horses drawn low, let's start here. Nothing. Prominent lead, very little here. So these horses have a question. They have that work to do. That includes Comanche Falls, who's up there, second favourite, is he? And Great Ambassador, who's favourite. None of them like to get on with it. The jockeys may know there's not much pace here. Does that mean they will bomb forward? There's a reason they've been held up or ridden more patiently in most of their races to date. Probably to get settled, probably because they might be competitive horses who like running through other horses, and that kind of gets their juices flowing. That is a thing. Other horses like bombing out in front and can get a bit claustrophobic, or they just like bossing their rivals, and they like to say, I'm the pack leader, sod off, I'm making all and winning. So these horses down here do have a question in terms of this, and that would be a reason to oppose, in my opinion, Great Ambassador and Comanche Falls. But maybe they have so much class and still a bit in hand, and they might be class 1 animals. Well, one of them would be if they could take this off their weights, that they can overcome what looks like a disadvantage. Of course, as we saw in the Bronze Cup, with everything happening middle to low, and there's rain today, this evening, maybe that will flip round. Maybe there'll be a track bias, and everything up here will be disadvantaged, and it's nothing to do with pace, and actually they'll be on the fastest bit of the track, so it doesn't matter that there's no real pace down low. That can happen, so that's a possibility. And again, why these types of races are very difficult, but a fun and interesting puzzle in which to attack and try and solve, even for small stakes, which is what I like to do. So, yeah, some of these have questions down here. Mr. Wagyu likes to race prominently. Just Frank made all last time. He was eased down in a fairly big field, half-decent Class 3 at Thirsk. Paul Mulrennan's riding out of his skin and getting everything to run for him at the moment. A few winners at Perth already this week. He's just riding very well. Usually has him in the right spot. So Just Frank is interesting because he's going to blast out. He's going to race promptly. All kinds of conditions seem to be fine to him. He's a 3-year-old. He's progressive. He's in form. He's around 10 to 1. If running his race and the yards in form as well, I would be mildly surprised, given all those factors, if he were out of the top 5. And he might get £2.50, £5 each way. Or maybe I'll just go solid on the nose. We'll see. Above, there's a bit of pace down here, but not loads, so I don't think he's going to be pestered unless he gets into a battle with Mr. Wagyu and then sets it up for something on here. What else do I want to say? Yeah, so yeah, you've got pace there, some pace pushes here. So these ones may be advantage. It may not be a disadvantage to be too far back. given the pace on this side. Ostillo is interesting, I'll mention in a moment. I haven't touched on the Instant Expert, have I yet either? There might be a bit of sustained pace in the middle. Holly Doyle might be aware of that. Popmaster's raced handily before, and the middle has been okay. They've got a bit of pace not too far away, and Dascombe Horse can go forward also. So Popmaster, interesting. Like I said, I would be a little bit negative on these, but Strangeton's the Instant Expert as I tick round to 30 minutes, but I hope you're finding this interesting and enjoyable. I'm speaking as quickly as I can while I also think about what I'm saying. Let's click on win, and what have we got here? What am I going to highlight? Well, obviously, you can look at different things here. Let's just jump straight to the flat handicaps. It might not be riding quite as good to firm. Let's just say it's good for now. We can see, you can obviously pause this video here, and using everything I said on the Silver Cup, you can kind of interrogate what you can see in front of you. You can see these various horses above their last winning marks. They have a question. They've gone up in the handicap. They need to improve again, and some of them may well do, but it's still a question for them. Snazzy Jazzy, £9 below his last winning mark. 5,000 to 1, I'm not sure has won a handicap. I need to check on that in a moment. Some of these are still above their last winning marks, aren't they? Above, not yet won a handicap. Interesting. Hey Jonesy, £1 below his last winning mark. Lahore, Astillo. This is what was interesting about him. Astilio, I should say. And although he's being nibbled at, hasn't literally been getting his mark down for this race. Not impossible. So you can see those with green and orange pause there. Dunham, solid, Manchester solid in these conditions. Has won 2 this year, +3. Douglas obviously. Mr. London, interesting £1 above his last win. Mark Gulliver, ticks quite a lot of boxes. In terms of from an each-way perspective, possibly. Mr. Wagyu, he's now £8 above his last winning mark. Has the handicap caught up the winner? Will he find better treated horses now? But like I said, like with that pace map, he's going to be in the right spot, and there may not be loads of pace pressure on, although often I think when you pick good handicap on the flat, and they naturally just go hard anyway, even when the pace map, like I just showed you, on paper it doesn't look like they necessarily will. But he is a trier. He's hard. He's tough. I can't sit here for certain and say the handicap has definitely got him and he can't win. You can't really say that about any horse anyway. Really, all about looking at the odds and assessing a chance against your own little pointers and assessments and what you value, etc. Popmaster interesting from a class perspective. Distance, big field. Like I said, you can focus on those big field pointers down here. Astilio, interesting. Count D'Orsay is interesting from a pace perspective, still above his last winning mark. Bielsa, not too bad. So this looks competitive and challenge, obviously meant to be. But yeah, you can look at those and take a pause and do what you want with that information that you can see in front of you. What did I want to highlight? Yeah, it looks bloody tough. If I sorted by draw, like I said, some of these down here have a question because of that pace map. Middle's okay. Because of Ed Walker's form, that interested me in Popmaster, and the fact Holly's on also. Another one, First Time Blinkers, which is a bit odd for a last time out winner. Like I said in the previous race, that can go one or two ways. I may check to see what Ed Walker's form is like with First Time Out Blinkers, but again, only ever a guide. He's been in decent form, Popmaster. He has been running freely. I'm not necessarily sure I like horses that run freely being put in First Time Blinkers. They might completely blow a gasket, but we shall see. You have to try and build that into the odds, I suppose. This form here, is this Newmarket race the key to some of these races today? There's a few, obviously, horses in the last race. This was a 3-year-old only handicap, Heritage handicap. Blackrod won it, Popmaster's won since, Polo won. There's a few winners down here as well. Various others that have run well as well. So that's turning into an okay 3-year-old only handicap. We shall see Obviously, if Blackrod runs well in the silver version, that is a boost to Potmaster. If Raw Skimmeter runs well in that first one, a boost also, and so on. Might be a boost to some others down here also. Yeah, interesting race to Ascot. Track leaders ridden out. Like I said before, I like to see a big racing post rating against the mark. 95 posts to 107, which is decent, a career best. So coming in on the back of this on a career best. Looks versatile ground-wise, which is important given what the weather's doing. Has big field form, big field experience. Will he settle? Will the blinkers have a positive impact? He's clearly going to track the leaders up the middle. Maybe there will be loads of pace on this and it will set up for something held up, because Potmaster may go forward in first-time blinkers, but Holly may try and keep a handle on him, but near the front. So Potmaster's interesting, 3-year-old, in form, unexposed, yard on fire, good form in the book. Yeah, interesting, I think. Mr. Wagyu, less so just from a handicapping perspective. Has he caught up? He certainly is open to attack now from something better treated. Just Frank is interesting, another 3-year-old, in form, 95, 107 RPR. That race hasn't worked out as yet, but most of these other ones down here have. He also does stay a little bit further, which is no bad thing in these cavalry charges over 6 furlong. But it looks like a strongly run 6 is his bag, and he absolutely dossed up there. He could have won by much further. £5 might be lenient. Paul Morennan's on, the yarder in form, the horse in form. I'm really going to struggle not to have a little nibble on him at, I think, what is 9s or 10s, if I'm being honest. And Astillo may be the other interesting one I've looked at from that handicapping perspective. Has this been the plan? Odds that Billy Garrett's on in terms of, I don't think he's one of Midgley's normal jockey bookings, but I could be wrong there. He stays further. Will he be outpaced here? But I think Midgley's been trying to turn him into a bit of a sprinter. Maybe he's been trying to get his mark down from these lofty heights of 108, where he won a listed race at Redcar. They're so listed races there, I suppose, but he does have group form here. He did win a Royal Ascot handicap back in June 18 for Simon Ed Christopher of 90. He's still a shade above that mark. He won a handicap there off 104, but only 5 runners. But technically, he is well handicapped. They've got his mark down, and he arrives in form, in rear, centre of group, headway kept on nearest finish. That was over 5 furlongs. Put him into a listed race, maybe keep him ticking over, but without damaging his mark. Again, ran on nearest finish. So he has run on over 5 furlongs, now back up to 6, which is probably more ideal. But Midgley has trained some speed into him, which is what I should think he's been trying to do by running over those short distances. And now will he plunder this pot from this mark? He's not messing about. Billy Garrett, he won from 8-5 places on, so he has used him a few times. I'd have thought he may have used someone else, but who knows? Ben Robinson, I've got no idea where he is. Is he elsewhere? Is he on another card? That might be worth a look, noting down. But interesting, another £3 off. So he's off 93, arrives in form. I think there is some pace high, as I said, Just Frank in 18 to tow him into it. So he's interesting. I think the market's starting to realise that, or may well have already realised it. So I suppose on my quick look, as I tick around at 37 minutes, I suppose it was always going to be a long one given the 2 races I'm looking at here. Yeah, Potmaster. Although 8-9 to 1 first time blinkers, well, we'll see. Just Frank, I think I've got to hopefully gets out and maybe stays there. If he does fold in the hole, he may well set it up for a Stillo. And of course, I may not have even gone anywhere near or mentioned the winner. But with that said, like I said, with any luck, I've said something of interest. Let me get my face back on the screen. Hello, if you're still here, 38 minutes in, congratulations. Thanks for watching. Do post a comment. Click like if you like. The downward thumb if you dislike. But do mention why, and I'll try and improve for next time. And yes, like I said, if you fancy anything in this, anything in the Silver Cup, do post a comment down below, either on YouTube or on the blog. And all that's left for me to do is to wish you very good luck. If you fancy or go with anything in these 2 races, I will give myself about a tenner, I think, to spread across the 2. Come what may, with any luck, one of them I've mentioned, or my pin lands on one of them at a half decent price. But I'm ticking around to 40 minutes. I've been speaking for far too long. Like I said, yes, thanks for watching. There's various links below this video on YouTube. You can try Gigi's Goal for 30 days for £1. You can become a free registered user, which all of you should do, in my opinion, because you get access to some of the tools for free every single day. Yeah, click like, click subscribe on the video, tell your friends to watch it, share it, do whatever if you've got any other racing friends in your circles. Until the next time, have a great weekend, good luck with any bets, and this is Josh from Racing to Profit saying bye for now.